Round 3 of the 2023 MotoGP World Championship at Circuit of the Americas in Texas was a weird one, as we got a race of attrition in the feature race that saw only 13 riders finish. It was a weekend with plenty of storylines, so let's take a look at the 5 things we learned from the American Grand Prix. Rins the Rocket. Starting with the big feel-good story of the weekend, Alex Rins won the Grand Prix, the feature race, and it was an excellent ride from him. Alex all weekend looked fast, and it was just a perfect weekend because whilst his teammates and fellow Honda riders were struggling to get top 10s in any of the sessions really, Alex was there getting front row in the qualifying sessions. He got second in the sprint and then of course took the race win in a perfectly judged feature race. I think this weekend shows just why Alex can be so good, because at the start of the weekend, I'd considered him as a possibility for doing well, but thought that the Honda would have too many issues for him to actually be able to ride around it. But he managed it. He was riding around the problems that we know that Honda has and took what is an excellent race win, showing once again why he is so talented. An excellent, perfect weekend from Alex Rins, and really you can't compliment him enough. Start woes. Maverick Vinales' starts are widely known, but not because they are good, but rather because they are complete crap. He showed this once again in COTA. It was just a bad start in both the sprint and the feature race from his relatively solid starting position of 8th. From 8th, he should have been able to, and probably actually had the pace to, run in the front few and possibly go for the podium or maybe even compete for the win. But because he started terribly in both races, he ended up just plummeting down the grid and having to use all of this speed that he did have to push back through and end up in a rather average position. He did manage 4th in the main race, but let's be honest, that was benefiting a lot from the crashes ahead. And so Maverick needs to get these starts sorted out. It's still his weakest point, and hopefully he can start to work towards getting them right in the future. We'll have to see how he does in the upcoming races. Picking up a podium. It's been 2 rounds of misery for Fabio Quartaro, but he finally finds himself back on the podium. This weekend wasn't a smooth ride for him, as thanks to him having to override that Yamaha, he ended up crashing out in the sprint race, but it did pay off. He got his podium, and he did manage to qualify relatively well, starting from 7th place on the grid. That meant that Fabio was able to kind of make a decent start and not get involved with the scraps that often happen a little bit further back. And he used that to take advantage of the crashes as well ahead of him to find himself on the podium. But I think we can learn from this that Yamaha still doesn't have a bike that is actually capable of helping Fabio get on the podium. Had these people who did crash, your likes of Bagnaia, likes of Miller, had they not crashed, Fabio wouldn't have ended up anywhere near the podium. And that is a real problem. Yamaha needs to sort their stuff out and find something. And we know that Fabio is begging them to do that. But it's a difficult time, and I wouldn't expect Fabio to be on the podium much this season based on the current results. Unless Yamaha finds some serious pace in that bike, it's going to be a difficult season for Yamaha, and I think we're already starting to see the cracks form with Fabio crashing out in the sprint race. He's starting to push himself too hard and push the bike too hard, and so I think we could see him falling off more and more regularly. We also should discuss Luca Marini, who I'm a bit of a supporter of. You can see my VR46 shirt to celebrate his first ever podium, which was very impressive. He made light work of Fabio once he saw that Pecco crashed, and did a really good job this weekend. Little bit of a quiet ride, but glad to see him on the podium, and I'm hoping, and I'm sure we will, see him take a race win this year. Pecco problems. In the early stages of the last year, we saw that Pecco Bagnaia was prone to an error or two, but by the end of the 2022 season, I think most of us kind of had thought that he'd fixed that issue. He did have some late crashes in 2022, but generally speaking, he became a very consistent winner and kind of seemed like he'd actually fixed those issues of him perhaps riding too hard or pushing himself too hard and making a mistake. But once again, we've seen that Pecco in this season isn't immune to those issues, and he seemingly has kind of reverted to type, as in the last 2 rounds, he's crashed out of both feature races, losing something like 46 points. Bagnaia needs to fix these issues if he wants to go for the title again this year, because there are lots of consistent riders in the field who will benefit from all of these mistakes that he makes. And so we'll have to see over the next few rounds if he can get back to that late 2022 form of just consistently winning, or if we'll see another title run from him where he's bouncing up and down, winning and then crashing and then winning again. It'll be an interesting one to watch. Seats under pressure. It's kind of crazy to say, but after 3 races, we already have riders with their seats under pressure. The first of these is Augusto Fernandez, who, unless he starts putting in some worldly performances, probably will get booted for Pedro Acosta, despite the fact that he got his first top 10 finish this weekend. Pedro seems like the future of KTM, so Augusto will probably be the next rookie in a bit of a line of them to feel the brutalness of that Tech 3 team. And the other of them is, of course, Franco Morbidelli, who has been struggling for a long time. He did do very well in Argentina, but it seems that that was just a blip. So the other options that Yamaha seemingly are looking at is Toprak Razgatlioglu, who has been testing the 2023 M1 with Cal Crutchlow, and the possible use of Jorge Martin. Lynn Jarvis has said that they are looking for someone who would be immediately fast on the Yamaha. Since they have only one team, they need a good rider who will be able to immediately get to grips with that bike and feel good. It's quite an interesting discussion around who could sit in that seat next to Fabio, but right now, who would actually want to go there, since Yamaha does seem to be struggling and it would be a great risk. If you were Jorge Martin, I don't think you'd want to go to Yamaha necessarily, because it does look like it could be a big risk. So what are your thoughts down below? Who do you think should be replacing Franco Morbidelli, if indeed he does get replaced? Do you think it should be Toprak? Do you think they should look at Jorge Martin or one of the Moto 2 riders? Personally, I think Alonso Lopez is a serious option. So tell me down in the comment section below your thoughts on who should possibly be in that second seat for Yamaha. I know it's early in the season to talk about it, but it was one of the interesting discussion points of this weekend. Rider of the weekend. For me this weekend, Rider of the Weekend goes to the race winner, which I don't normally do, but I think he deserves it. Alex Rins did an incredible job all weekend, and yeah, he just did so well. He's my Rider of the Weekend. Struggle of the weekend. My struggle of the weekend for this weekend is Jack Miller, who crashed 6 times. He was running in the podium places during the race, but then threw it away, and so in the end, 6 crashes and a crash in the race when you were running in the podium positions. I have to give him the struggle of the weekend. Finally, my predictions. My first prediction was that Franco Morbidelli would continue on his form from Argentina and get 2 top 10s. Sadly, that didn't happen for Franco, and it looks like he's kind of back to his old self. He did get 1 top 10, but let's be honest, that was mainly due to the high attrition rate in the feature race. So, wrong on that one. My second prediction was that Jack Miller would win the sprint race, which really didn't happen. He was my struggle of the weekend, and that kind of shows it. He ended up finishing in 9th or 10th in the sprint, which was just not very impressive from him. I expected a lot more. And like my last prediction, which I did get right, was that Bezzecchi would maintain his title lead, which is very cool to see that he maintains it, but I think it was predominantly due to luck. Pecco Bagnaia crashing out and a couple of crashes in the sprint race meant that he didn't lose out as many points as he probably should have. So, I did get one prediction right, but it was a bit of a lucky one. And that's 5 things we learned from the American Grand Prix. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, like, comment, subscribe, all of that stuff. Tell me down below in the comments who you think should be filling in or replacing Franco Morbidelli for 2024. Based on his performance in this round, I can't imagine he'll be sticking around that much longer. So who do you think Lynn Jarvis should move in? Tell me down below. We can discuss it a little bit. Thank you very much for watching. Goodbye.